We will analyze the theory of evolution using evolutionists' very own reasoning. It is often stated by evolutionists that with enough time, anything could happen regardless of the improbability. Time in and of itself is no basis for mutation, random change, natural selection, or any other feature of the evolution theory. Here's an example. If you take 10 evolutionists and have them play jacks for 1 hour during their playtime every day for 50 years, and in that time they threw the ball in the air 4.5 billion times, is there any chance that just once the law of gravity would not apply, even given the sheer number of throws? Is there any chance that their game of jacks would be ruined by their ball overcoming the law of gravity and rising up into the clouds? Since this scenario cannot occur, how can the exact same impossibility apply to evolution and be accepted as possible? In other words, how can this world evolve out of nothing for no other reason but a long period of time, 4.5 billion years, in chance? The required long periods of time that evolutionists propose as the core of their theory violates both the bedrock law of nature, the second law of thermodynamics, and common sense. Here's how. Let's suppose an airplane was flying over Washington, D.C. at 10,000 feet, full of all the disassembled parts of a Chevy Monte Carlo. If the pilot dropped the car parts out of the plane's cargo bay at 10,000 feet, what would happen? The parts of that car would be strewn over the whole city. They would find a muffler in Anacostia, a carburetor in Rock Creek Park, an axle in DuPont Circle. What would happen if the plane were even further from the ground, say at 50,000 feet? The parts of the Chevy Monte Carlo would be strewn not only over the city, but over the entire Washington metropolitan area. There'd be a radiator hose in Roslyn, Virginia, a steering wheel in Great Falls. The ignition would be found on the roof of Montgomery Mall in Maryland. Evolution, on the other hand, teaches that at 10,000 feet, the Monte Carlo would fall in one spot in the heart of D.C. at the corner of 21st and Pennsylvania. At 50,000 feet, evolution teaches the Monte Carlo would not only land at 21st and Pennsylvania, but be fully assembled, waxed, polished, and gassed up. When we replace the 10,000 and 50,000 feet in our analogy with months and study the effects of the elapsing of 10,000 to 50,000 months on any living or non-living material thing in the entire world, we will see that time, without any outside control other than the laws of nature, moves things toward decay and disarray, not toward the evolving of a higher order as evolution contends. If you don't believe that, just place the Chevy Monte Carlo in our example out in the woods. Leave it alone for 50 years and see what it remains. It will become a rusted, inoperable heap of nuts and bolts. The second law of thermodynamics, therefore, proves that in a closed system, things will always go from being more orderly to being less orderly unless there is a directive energy put into the system to maintain orderliness. This is not only confirmed by logic, but by the fact that there has been no recorded experiment in the history of science that contradicts the second law or its corollaries. Evolutionists are forced to admit that the second law is a fact, but add the rejoinder that it is a fact only in a closed system and places such as science laboratories. Though every experiment ever performed in the history of science has affirmed the second law, it somehow is not valid according to evolutionists. Why would they make this illogical and anti-scientific claim? The reason they do so is because by the second law, evolutionists' presupposition that with the passing of time, organisms naturally evolve into higher and more complex forms is proven false. Evolutionists must then deny the second law. If they were honest and took the incontrovertible facts for what they are, they would have to discard the entire evolutionary theory. That's something they will not do. So they make the preposterous claim that the distinction between a closed and open system makes the fact of the second law applicable only under certain conditions. The fact from observable science is clear. Whether in a closed or open system, anywhere in the material world, every material thing in it, and in fact every material thing in the entire universe, is waxing old, including the sun, the moon, and the stars. The only being that does not wax old is the Lord God Almighty, because He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He's the creator and sustainer of the universe and everything in it. He, most certainly, therefore, is the creator of the laws of nature, along with everything else, of which He is above all things, and governs each law and His entire creation perfectly and triumphantly. The second law of thermodynamics proves that organisms do not evolve. By evolutionists' hypocritical denial of the truth of the law of entropy, the second law also proves that evolutionists are dishonest. The time and chance argument is not neutral. It does not prove evolution, but scientifically disproves it. Semantic manipulation, not honest communication, is therefore used as propaganda. Its aim is to promote an agenda regardless of the truth. This is the story of microevolution. The evolution of microevolution has been a wonder to behold. We are now at the point where educators teach microevolution as if it were an actual discovery and not, as it really is, a scam. The deception can be likened to teaching that the season of summer is not a law of nature that God created and sustains, but a product of evolution. Let's suppose, to illustrate, that summer is no longer called summer, but is now called micro-warmer. Everyone everywhere would be taught this new idea. During the summer months, people would observe the weather becoming warmer, the daylight lasting longer, the fruits on the vine growing, and etc. These are observable facts of the summer season. They are real, but the people are taught that this period of time is not the season of summer, but the interval of micro-warmer. This fallacious concept would be marketed as proof for global warming and evolution. In other words, in our example, the people see the reality of summer, but attribute it to a lie. It is affirmed that what educators call now microevolution has never developed a new species, even given what evolutionists speculate are vast periods of time. This fact not only discredits evolution, but disproves it. Why then is this fraud studied? Evolutionists promote microevolution because they are able to measure changes in population groups and species. Prior to the concept of microevolution, speculation could only be offered to students. Today, measurements take sway over speculation. Though the measurements in fact discredit evolution, they are twisted to be used as proof of evolution. What then are these measurements? Here's an example of their measurements without the confusing scientific jargon. Let's say a fisherman who rows his fishing boat 20 miles per day for 10 years, he will develop strong arm and shoulder muscles than if he worked as an accountant. According to evolutionists, the stronger arm and shoulder muscles are proof of microevolution. What exactly does the word macroevolution mean? Well, the word macro simply means large. So macroevolution, therefore, is defined as the change from one species to another. Has this ever occurred? No, it never will. What about the word microevolution? The word micro means small. It is the study of changes measured within a species. These changes have always occurred. Instead, they have the school children study a peppered moth or DDT-resistant mosquitoes or rats that develop resistance to some poisons and call them examples of evolution. What utter nonsense. Moths are still moths, mosquitoes are still mosquitoes, and rats are still rats. Despite their propaganda, it is correct and fitting to conclude, though, just as evolution is a wicked lie, so are both microevolution and macroevolution. Writer Patrick McManus shows the absurdity of microevolution by conveying the following story. Mr. McManus proposes that back in time, there might have been a species of red bugs that were indigenous to a small tropical island. This species of bugs lived on the sand and numbered 100,000. Now, it just so happened that 99,900 of the bugs were bright red in color, but there were 100 bugs of the same species that happened to be sand-colored. Mr. McManus imagines that these 100 sand-colored bugs would have been belittled by the red bug majority, their bughood questioned, and they would doubtless have been ostracized from the community. Mr. McManus assumes the sand-colored bugs would have had their own little colony away from the red bug majority. One day, a flock of ferocious red bug-eating birds flew into town and ate all of the red bugs. The only survivors were the sand-colored bugs. The reason they survived was because the sand-colored bugs were naturally camouflaged. They were the same color as the sand and didn't move an inch during the bird attack. Their color, which caused them to be persecuted by the now dead red bug majority, was ironically the reason they survived. Microevolution teaches that the species will live on but evolve to be sand-colored bugs, right? Wrong. According to Mr. McManus, the bugs became extinct. Huh? How? Why? Well, while the sand-colored bugs were throwing a survival of the fittest microevolution party, a herd of rhinoceroses came trampling through their party to take baths. Not seeing the sand-colored bugs because they were too camouflaged, all 100 were squished. The end of the bugs and the end of the story. The absurd logic of microevolution to claim evolution by noticing a natural change within a species is outrageous. To say a fish learned to breathe air when ponds dried up, as microevolution contends, is likened to me saying I learned to fly to work when rush hour traffic had me at a dead stop on the Beltway. Evolutionary reasoning is outlandishly absurd, unbelievably illogical, and just plain nuts. As a matter of fact, microevolution does not prove evolution, but effectively proves creationism. The study of biological changes genetically programmed in a living creature compellingly affirms the complexity of life and the greatness of God and His creation. There has never been, nor will there ever be, any honest evidence proving that changes within a population will lead to a completely new species with genetic information that did not exist in their parents. The Earth's moon has been confirmed by United States astronauts who landed on it and studied it by observable science to be 100% dead. Nothing could survive on it. Even if astronauts went to the moon and brought everything they needed to build a man-made lake and supply water for it, it would be dead. Nothing living could survive. This is because it takes a multitude of factors all working together in precise balance for life to exist. Scientists call this irreducible complexity, where various parts must work together to make life or any object, such as a machine, work. If one part is removed, the whole will not work. On Earth, if there was no gravity, or not enough, or too much, if there was no dust, or not enough, or too much, if there was no oxygen, or not enough, or too much, If there was no water, or not enough, or too much, life on Earth would cease. In the human body, all of us know that it takes each organ, the brain, heart, lungs, kidneys, liver, etc., trillions of cells and their DNA molecules, millions of nerves, brain waves, skin, sinew, muscle, bones, blood, etc., all healthy and working together to sustain life. Not to mention outside necessities such as food, water, shelter, oxygen. And a very simple machine, such as a pencil sharpener, all the parts have to function to be in the right place to perform their respective tasks for the pencil sharpener to work. If you remove one component, it will not function. In other words, you cannot reduce its complexity without destroying its function entirely. The components necessary for life in a human being are connected and necessary, just as the components necessary for life on Earth to exist are connected, each needing to work and work together for life to continue.
Every living thing, therefore, had to be completely created by God at one time, as the Holy Bible proclaims.
Even more amazing, though we sometimes take it for granted, is that the components necessary for life in a human being and life on Earth are also connected and necessary for life to exist. This world supplies just the right amounts of sunlight, clean water, oxygen, food, and the ability for the human body to be sustained and nourished by these essential elements. These are supplied by God day by day and moment by moment, without which human or any life could not exist.
Dr. A. Cressy Morrison, past president of the New York Academy of Sciences, said, "So many essential conditions are necessary for life to exist on our Earth that it is mathematically impossible that all of them could exist in proper relationship by chance." Sir Fred Hoyle, professor of astronomy and mathematics, Oxford University, said, "To suppose that the first cell originated by chance is like believing that a tornado could sweep through a junkyard filled with airplane parts and form a Boeing 747.
What do these quotes mean? They mean the science of probability proves evolution to be an impossibility. The more statistically improbable a thing is, the less we can believe it happened by blind chance. Chance, therefore, has no chance of playing any part in creation.
The design of life may also be described in terms of information. The scientific name is called specified complexity. Specified complexity can be described as the information content of any arrangement and its size in bits of the shortest algorithm, computer program or code required to generate that arrangement. The data at the core of life is found in the DNA molecules of each living thing. Since its discovery in 1953, human DNA has been decoded, which has incredibly revealed that DNA molecules actually store, carry, and possess information, some 3 billion genetic letters in the form of a 4-character digital code. DNA has the same relevant properties as an astoundingly complex language. A genetic language, such as our human bodies retained, must be designed and created. It is not rational to consider any other explanation. Yet, somehow, according to evolutionists, contrary to all evidence and reason, the amazingly complex genetic information found in each cell of our and every living thing's makeup is not designed and created. I would only ask, could the Microsoft software program we use for this program be produced by evolution? I doubt if Billy Gates would accept that idea, since his company designed and produced the software. He probably wants to get paid for this product, since even evolutionists might admit that the Microsoft Word program just didn't appear out of thin air or arise from the elements that made up a CD-ROM and over time randomly formed Microsoft Word.
To believe that a CD-ROM could evolve over billions of years from various elements in the Earth is crazy, because it is impossible. But to believe that the computer program in the CD-ROM could evolve is insane.
Werner Gitt, a professor of information systems, put it directly, quote, "It has never been shown that a coding system and semantic information could originate by itself through matter. The information theorems predict that this will never be possible. A purely material origin of life is thus ruled out," unquote. When one considers life, one must realize that life consists of infinite complexity, and because of this fact, life must have been created by an infinitely wise and great creator. The amount of information that could be stored in a volume of human DNA the size of the head of a pin is 500 times as tall as the distance from the Earth to the Moon, each with a different yet specific content. It is an absolute impossibility for the information content of a human being to come into being by random chance, mutation, and natural selection. How can anyone continue to believe evolution? It cannot be stated frequently enough that there are literally millions of fossils available to scientifically study, yet not one has been discovered that can be classified a link from one species to another. Wouldn't the world be strewn with hundreds of thousands of fossils showing links from one species to another species if animals evolved? Yet there is not one shred of fossil evidence supporting evolution. On the other hand, these millions of fossils do say something. They absolutely establish and scientifically support creationism and wholly affirm the Holy Bible. For God said in His Word that plants, animals, mankind, and all life produce after their own kind. DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, the double helix building block of life that forms like two twisted circular stairways, offers irrefutable proof that evolution is impossible. This tiny DNA molecule is so complex that it contains all of the genetic information for the various parts of our bodies, as well as for every cell of the estimated 100 trillion cells that make up one human being. DNA are very complex molecular entities within cells. They are interrelated with other cells that work with the rest of the body to maintain life. Their discovery is proof that cells which make up a living being have never existed separated from the same living being and still be alive. Each cell must be interrelated with every other cell in a living being. It would then be impossible for a single simple cell to evolve into a living entity, as evolution theorizes, due to the vast complexity of one cell in the interrelationship of each cell to the other. DNA proves there never existed such a thing as a simple cell, nor a living creature whose cells did not genetically connect with each other. A DNA molecule is 2/millionths of a millimeter thick and only visible with the aid of a powerful electron microscope. Yet, if you stretch the double helix in just one molecule, it would measure about 6.5 feet long. All of the DNA in one human body linked together and stretched out would reach to the moon and back. To portray the smallest life form as a simple living organism, as evolution asserts, is proven an absurd impossibility. So each person has one-of-a-kind DNA. DNA molecules make up the fundamental building block for the human body's entire genetic framework. Scientists now know that the genetic information contained in each cell of the human body is roughly equivalent to a library of 4,000 volumes. If we multiply that by between 100 trillion cells, we can begin to appreciate the vast complexity of a single human being. This significant discovery with its subsequent findings completely destroys evolution and all so-called neo-Darwinian godless theories of the creation of the world. It also makes it obvious that ape DNA could not evolve into human DNA, nor could humanity evolve with DNA unique to each individual human being who ever lived. Christian evangelist Billy Graham well said, quote, "When we look into a microscope, we know there is a God. And when we look into a telescope, we know there is a God," unquote. Does honest, observable science prove evolution? No, it unequivocally disproves it. Despite being aware of specified complexity, irreducible complexity, and the complexity of DNA molecules, the reason given by evolutionary scientists for the creation of the universe, the earth, and life itself is the Big Bang Theory and billions of years of undirected, random evolution. Unbelievable.
The Holy Bible has the correct answer. There was no Big Bang. There is no evolution. The Holy Bible states in Genesis 1, verse 1, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth."